this is the way we really live the lives that we should live for ourselves.
Welcome to your Journey to Joy podcast. I'm your host, Moyra Gorski, and I'm on a mission to help you find joy in the chaos of life. As a retired nurse, multi-passionate entrepreneur, and mom of 4 adult children, I know what it's like to feel the overwhelm of it all and wonder if and when the joy will show up again. And I've learned it's up to us to go find that joy. On this show, you will hear inspiring stories from those who have overcome all kinds of life challenges, tips on how to stay healthy and vibrant during the ups and downs of life, and simple ways on finding joy in your own life. Let's face it, life is messy, yet when we travel together on this journey, support and encourage each other along the way, that joy starts to show up again. I'm so excited to lead you on this journey of you to find the joyful life that you deserve. Well, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Moyra Gorski, and I am excited today to bring one of my guests to you, somebody that I've met along the way. As I say, Diana Hartley is joining me today. She is coming to talk with us today, and we're just going to have a really cool discussion about highly sensitive people. As I've switched the focus here of my podcast to really talk about joy, we're going to talk about joy. But Diana she's an entrepreneur that is just so passionate about helping coach people, train people, just work with people that have what she calls this highly sensitive personality, and really what that means. And what I hear from what she shared with me is that she really gets to know the people that she works with. And as she gets to know them and really gets to know what makes them tick and things like that, she really designs programs or her conversations around how she can really tune into that and thus help them, strive and live better lives. So before I go any further, Diana, thank you for joining me today on my podcast.
Well, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. And it's always really fun to talk about this subject because there are many people that don't even know they are highly sensitive.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find, as we always start these shows, like kind of how did you find yourself where you're at today? Like, how did you discover this highly sensitive, personality, if you will, that would lead you towards wanting to help them?
Well, I am one. That's how I discovered that, even as a child. And often people know they are. People will say to you, you're too sensitive, you're too dramatic. You'll hear this stuff because we're full of life and we're full of energy, and we have a particular ability because of the way our brain functions to be able to hear and see more than other people. But when you're a kid, people aren't going, oh, what a brilliant thought that is. I mean, unless you have the most amazing parents. So you get shut down. That part of you is not accepted in this society. Oftentimes, probably 70% were introverts, about 30% extroverts. And so we shut down that part of us because we realized this society was not built for us to flourish. So that's how I found out. I didn't know. And it's been very painful. It is for a lot of us because there's so much inside of us that we know is true, but the outside world doesn't mirror that, doesn't support our sensitivity or what our thoughts are about life. And so you start to follow what 70% of the population does, but you're never happy. And there's a part of you that has a tremendous amount of emotion around that. Anyway, I could carry on, but
so you're saying sensitive in that, because sometimes when I hear sensitive, like, oh, they're very fragile, they're very, so that's not what we're meaning by sensitive. It's really more
sensing, being able to sense more. I think, if use that word, and it can be very daunting. And the more I know about this, which I discovered that I was a highly sensitive person, took me until I was like 50, starting to read books. They're starting to come out. People are talking more and more about it, that so much of what I've done was because I was sensitive, even sitting right in front of the teacher instead of in the back, because I'd be so busy watching everyone and taking in their energy that I wouldn't pay attention. And even I thought yesterday, the real reason that I like to go early to a job or wherever I go is to calm down and center before all the energy comes in, because it can be overwhelming for us. It's pretty interesting stuff.
It is interesting. And I think I'm glad that you explained that. And again, I think one word or changing things a little bit can make a difference in the way that we understand things. And just that idea that you're more in tune, you're much more open. Again, this is a show that I've talked for 3 years and interviewed people who have struggled with addictions. And when you have addictions, you're numbing yourself out to the world with whatever you're choosing, if it's the drugs or the alcohol or the eating or the sex or the shopping or whatever. It's a way of shutting yourself off to the world because you can't deal with the world. And so I find it interesting that I've heard from others that I've interviewed. I've heard from my daughter. I've thought myself too, as I've gone through different healing and coming more in tune with myself. Like, it is that matter of being much more open to the world and what's coming and being more in tune. And it can be really scary, especially if you've spent you spent so much of your life numbing that out, or like you're saying, perhaps society has told you, or your parents have told you, or your teachers have told you, you're too active and you're too involved, or you're too this or that. I was having a conversation when I was just on a trip last week about ADD and ADHD. Sometimes people are, they say that Ty Pennington, that guy that's on the building channels and things like that, that he's ADD. And I'm like, yeah, but he's this really super dynamic.
It works. It works.
But it works for him.
It does.
But I think this society, we want to put people into these lanes that they need to stay in, right? Yes. And the way that they need to act and behave, as opposed to opening ourselves up and like being unique.
Well, I don't think it's just our society. I think it's every society. I think it's the way the world functions, and it's a way to control people. We can go into that. Highly sensitive people have more mirror neurons. They actually have a different neurology. So they're more sensitive to their environment, to their feelings. And talking about addiction, many highly sensitive people that have not discovered or learned about it, which is why I love educating people, go for addiction because their feelings are so intense. So they want to numb. It's even more. Now, there is a range of sensitivity, but when you have a lot of this, let's say you're extremely sensitive, it's not an easy life, and you do go to that. But if you learn that you are highly sensitive, you understand you're not alone, you're not crazy, you're not weird, you're not worthless, whatever that you've been naming yourself because you don't fit into this society. It doesn't support the things that you need to thrive. Then, you go to addiction and suicide even because it's so painful. But that's the whole point of what's been coming up. There's a lady named Elaine Aron. She's a doctor. She was the one 30, 40 years ago. She, again, was a highly sensitive person. So she did the research on it. So it's Elaine Aron, Aron. And then, because I have her book right here, not that I have to show it, but then Judith Orloff is an MD at UCLA. She's a psychiatrist, how she got through school as highly sensitive as she is. And she focuses also on helping people and writing books and how they can support themselves, because highly sensitive people get overwhelmed with information. So this stuff comes at you more than other people. And you tend to look like you're antisocial. Let's say you're in a group of people and you have too much coming in. You get exhausted and you go home. You bring your car to an event because you're not sure and you want to escape. You're the first person to leave often. And then you go home and you need to be quiet and kind of drain out this energy that you've built up. It overwhelms you. And we're such heart people, talk about joy, that we have a tendency to care too much for everyone else, and we don't know how to take care of ourselves and needing to learn that. But oftentimes we've been told we're this or that or too much. And so we don't even know. We have a lot of false beliefs in our head about who we are because the society and the world did not understand who we are. So we have to get rid of those things to be able to thrive and go to our heart and go to our joy which is where our power is, and be able to be ourselves and dare to be authentic in that way and learn how to take care of ourselves.
I was just thinking as when you're talking, there's things like the Enneagram, or there's different personality tests or things like that you can take. I mean, are there certain type of assessments of sorts that someone can go through to kind of determine if they're wondering, like, maybe this is me, or is it these books to read? How can somebody kind of figure out more about themselves?
Well, I think the books, I started with a lady named Heidi Sawyer, and I think it was Highly Intuitive People. She was my first, and my hair stood up throughout the whole book. But I have an assessment on my website. Elaine Aron has an assessment. I'm sure Judith Orloff does. And it's very simple questions, do you get overwhelmed? Even people that are sensitive to light, to sound, things that thank goodness I don't have, not to that degree, but so they're in a concert, they have to run out, they can't handle it. So much, depending on, I guess, I don't know the complete research, and I'm sure there's going to be more done of these, mirror neurons and how they act with your body and your psychology. But I have one, real simple one right on my website, right on my homepage. And it was really interesting. I lead a group every 2 weeks of highly sensitive people. And it's just kind of a support group in a way. And I bring a subject and then we talk and we're right there for each other. So for the new people, I'd hand this to them, and it's amazing. If they go, oh my God. I mean, yeah, I've answered every one of them. Some of them I've gotten over, but that's me. Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. They don't know. And oftentimes it's hard to get people to come because they're so sensitive. They're afraid to come into a new group. But there are many, it's just simple assessments of situational things that happen that, do you react to this? Do you react to that? How do you feel when, and all of that, yes or no kind of thing. So that's a real simple thing to go to my website and look that up, or go to these books and take the tests.
Yeah, well, it's got to be very comforting when someone can do something like that and then feel like, wow, I've got some answers to how
exactly
I've been feeling for so long, or I feel like they're not alone. That's what I always say about this podcast too. When you hear stories of people that have struggled and overcome and stuff like that, I just want people to feel like they're not alone in this world. And that's a good, again, I've been reading an Enneagram book, so that's why I bring it up again. The more that I've, because someone on my team said, what's the Enneagram and how do I determine? So there's a quiz that you can take, so many questions. But as I learned more about the Enneagram for myself, as well as my husband, what his number in, it's helping me just understand our dynamic better, understand him better, understand myself better, and how I show up in the world. And really that, and how he's showing up in the world. And sometimes those idiosyncrasies that I think is, oh, what's he doing there? I think he might be a highly sensitive person with some of the things that you're talking about, but he does, he's very intuitive, he's very empathic, and he's very selective with who he spends his time with, because there is that energy. He just, again, gets very in tune to other people and what's going on. And sometimes it's, like you said, it can be overwhelming and too much. And so I've called him antisocial many times, but it's really more that he's much more selective. And so I think I bring that up because I think there's a lot of similarities there with what you're saying and who you're helping. And again, there
is a type. There definitely is. What are his numbers? What are his letters? EN something or other, right? Do you know?
Well, with the Enneagram, it's a number. So he's a
that's right.
5,
I'm thinking Myers-Briggs. But he could. I think with people like us too, do we enjoy deep conversation? We can't stand small talk. Mm-hmm. We just gone, so we're really selective. So we want to be around people because that helps us express and really enjoy our creativity, because we have a lot of creativity. And when it comes to antisocial, a lot of it can be when you just get overwhelmed and you just need to have time out. It's like, I'm coming home, sweetheart, and I'm going to go inside and just relax, and I'm going to play some music. I'll be out in 10 minutes,
right.
Knowing that is the kind of thing, and that they let go of whatever overstimulation, in a sense, they've experienced And that's what they need to do. They can't keep going. When I was doing corporate training, and I had a partner who was very similar to me. And I mean, that's from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m, and with a smile, and you're up front, rah, no matter what, after those classes, I would be dragging, and so would she. But the extroverts were going out for drinks and going to eat. And we just went home and fell into bed because it was so much that we had experienced. So, that's part of it. I think it's the more you know this, the more you can learn to take care of yourself, and the more that you can train almost your friends and family how to treat you so that they're not, well, we're doing that. Why aren't you? Or whatever. Teaching them that you have different needs is huge.
Right.
Even in the workplace, which is what I would like to get out there and do more, is educate people in the workplace about their sensitive people so that they can instead of being in a big open space with fluorescent lighting, which doesn't work, they get a private place, a little bit of a privacy place, because that's what they need. So it's not too much stimulation.
Right. And the fact that there's nothing wrong with that, right? If that person is that particular way, that again, that's where they're going to best thrive. I feel like this whole shift in how people are working, if they're in the office, out of the office, that's got to be an interesting, remote or not remote or things like that. It's an interesting time as things change around with that. But I mean, you use the words like teaching your friends how you are. I mean, that's what boundaries are.
Right.
As we learn to set those boundaries, like, hey, this is what's important to me. And regardless of what you think, but I love that definition of boundaries. It's really how boundaries is about teaching other people how to treat you and what's important to you.
Right.
And making sure that you have that boundary so that you can take care of yourself.
And I think, from my support group has been going on for about almost a year. I can't believe it. Every 2 weeks. And there are people in there that really have boundary problems or came in with boundary problems. And, because they overgive, and this is where the narcissist can tell about us. Narcissists are drawn to highly sensitive people because they know, they can feel. They could, we're just ready. We have no boundaries that way because we're not taught that. And so she, was talking about being exhausted or just even angry that these people had come to her, and just being able to explain to her about how to do that. And again, to me, it's communication, learning how to communicate without getting angry or whatever, but trying to explain, no, it's not right for you when you're at work and I'm not, to call me all the time at home. Being able to feel safe that she could give those instructions to someone and not feel guilty because she searched it. And then she had this terrible guilt about the world falling apart. And so she was depressed all the time. And it's like, but you can't do anything. That you have to take care of yourself. What can you do that's small that will nourish you, but you can't be worrying about the world all the time. So a lot of shift in thinking, and it has to happen, and a lot of getting rid of or transforming beliefs that say I'm not good enough, that I'm worthless, I'm not like everyone else, I can't be out there like an extrovert, and whatever you were taught as a child, trying to really sift through that to be able to find your own love, self-love, because maybe you didn't get it because of that, or didn't get it and it was taught to you, but except you are sensitive, and that you got to put that part away and shut it down. So a lot of people shut down their intuition, which is the number one thing that we have really that connects us. That's where the joy is, and the connection to spirit. And we're heart people. That's why we're so generous with our time and attention. So we put away all that other stuff and learn to trust ourselves.
Well, I'm on that journey myself. I mean, I was raised in a very, loving home and 3 other siblings. And, but I always felt like I was different from them. And I am, but I took it to believe that, when I was different than them, then there was something wrong with me.
Right.
But now that I've learned more about myself and who I am and my uniqueness of me, and that I'm an Enneagram 4, and that's all we're all about, that is being authentic and unique, and sitting in that and accepting that and saying, this is me, and not apologizing for who I am. But it's taken time to become aware of that myself, and again, be okay with it. And yes, my my sisters are this and my brother is this, and they're very similar. They're all these very analytical, and I'm not. I'm much more heart-centered, and I want to go deep in the conversations, and I just care, and like, let's have these wonderful conversations. I don't really want to talk about math and investments. So just, but again, I took that to believe because that was so much of the conversation, and I'm much more, I'm much more social than any of my other siblings, and I wasn't the top A student, and, but I still got good grades. I was a B student, nothing wrong with that. But, again, when there was this discrepancy,
right,
I took that to believe that there was something, it was a negative. But, again, I think that with anything highly sensitive or all of these things, it's like just becoming more aware of who you are and being okay with accepting that, and putting yourself out into the world the way that God uniquely made you. And like you said, the intuition, just trusting that and staying away from that codependency, or what are they going to say, or I feel guilty about this, or all of, on and on and on. Like, no, I'm going to sit and see how it feels for me, and that kind of thing. Being more intuitive can really be.
Well, and I think if you follow your intuition, which, sometimes if you've been highly sensitive for a long time, you might have a lot of fear to do that. But the more you do it, even though it could be really scary to be able to be really honest that way, because people are not used to it. This is the way you do things. Your intuition will eventually lead you to where you're supposed to be. And it could be a journey, because you won't necessarily fit into a place, but maybe that's the wrong place for you to be, let's say, in a job, because they're not going to accept you. So there you are, hunkering down like this, not being yourself, and eventually being miserable and having to quit because it's not the right place. So your intuition will lead you. It's a real process to develop it and trust it, and go to yourself. And what do I feel right now to be able to know what that is? But that's the truth for you. And, the world has been about separation and control and, all these hierarchies, and all these people have money and all these people are poor. The more we become who we are, the less control they have over us. So we weren't exactly taught to be ourselves. This is the new consciousness that has come about as the energy has changed, and as more people are meditating, more people are exploring themselves, but it's breaking the old patterns, and people don't like it because they want to be able to control us and so forth. But this is the way we really live the lives that we should live for ourselves, and finding out what that is and where we should be. And even listening to you, your evolution, how you're evolving, what you're doing, that you're paying attention to what it is that what's coming up now, just like you said in the workshop you had, and how this thing is blooming. And then synchronously, your friend gives you that acronym. I can't remember what it is, but synchronicity comes because the universe is supporting you being who you are. And it's pretty cool.
It's very cool. And it is that, people can say, oh, I'm not going to meditate because it's too woo-woo, but for that very reason, like you just said, like, that's why we should be meditating, because it's a matter of sitting down, or you can stand up, whatever, lay down, but being quiet and blocking everything else out and being quiet, and then feeling and hearing, and that kind of thing. Like, that meditation is that quiet time of really getting in tune to ourselves and what we need, what we're feeling. And there's so much, even if it's 10 minutes a day, there's so much magic in that time that's serving us. Like you said, not taking in whatever the world is saying. It's really about tuning into us.
And the earlier you learn that, the better it is, because you'll create a life that you really want for yourself. And maybe, certain things as a creative person that you've suppressed. So you became an accountant, but you hate it, but you're disconnected so much from yourself, especially if you're sensitive, that's what you were told to do, but you hate it. So you have this terrible conflict inside. And once you allow yourself to listen to you, to pay attention and take those baby steps to express that, then just like with synchronicities show up, jobs show up, people show up that support who you are. And it's amazing. And I mean, it really is just about being ourselves finally letting ourselves be ourselves. And I think everyone in the world thinks they're not good enough, because that's what has come down through the centuries,
Right.
so that people controlled us. And then there was advertising and social media, and you have to have this, and you have to, and it's just because you're never good enough, and you have to fix your eyes, and you have to have plastic surgery or whatever, or you have to learn all these things to fit in, and or do this kind of marketing program, or you'll never succeed. And with me, and it's all other people wanting your money. And is it really right? Unless you really know it's right for you, you've got to check in with yourself.
It's such a noisier world these days, with so many things coming at our way, right? With the news and social media and this TikTok video and this, that, and all of that. And it's just, we're being bombarded with that. And it's not helping. It's helping, it can be good, but it's really not helping in so many ways because of that. Like you said, it's just bombarding people with other people's ideas and thoughts.
Right.
And it's then harder to tune into what.
Well, and then they think there's something wrong with them, and then they start to punish themselves or drink too much or get addicted to something because they don't know how to connect and know that they're okay, no matter what. They're perfect, actually. They just don't know that yet. And so, the sooner they can get into a process, if they're sensitive or not. People are sensitive anyway. People are intuitive. This is just a brain thing where they can be highly sensitive because of what their mind works. And that's really important to understand. So you could take care of yourself and you don't hurt yourself trying to fit in and be like others.
The pandemic was an interesting time, and it was, bad, but it was also, I've met so many people that during that time, they realized, as you use that example, I'm an accountant and I'm miserable and I don't want to do this. And so they were stuck at home and they were doing this, and they decided they were going to do something different, and they were going to follow their heart, and they were going to follow. And so, because I network quite a bit, and I talk with people, and I'm like, well, when did you start your business? How long have you been doing your business? Well, it's 2.5 years, or it's 3 years, or, it's like, wow, then that you created this during that. And I think that's what's exciting about that terrible time that we went through, is it did help people. It got them, obviously shut off from many things, but many of them then discovered during that time, I don't think I want to do this anymore, but I'm going to, life is short. We don't know what's going to happen sometimes. And so I'm going to take it upon myself to do what feels good to me and figure that out. And I'm finding there's these people that have started these new ventures and these new business. They're super happy because they realized I've lived my life the last 25 years, the last 40 years this way, and it's not serving me.
Right.
So I'm going to find something that serves me better. Brought to you by Gorski Wellness and the possibility of a better you. Are you feeling sluggish? Ready for a change? Need more energy? Up for a bigger challenge? I'm Moyra Gorski, retired nurse and wellness advocate. For over 22 years, I've been helping people live healthier lives while making small changes each and every day. Those small changes lead my clients to living a healthier lifestyle with markedly better health. As a brand ambassador for the Shaklee Corporation, the most clinically proven wellness company in the world, I guide my clients to make healthier choices each day with their food, supplements, skincare, workouts, and mindset. They say getting started is half the battle. Let's make healthy happen together. If you're ready for simple, natural, sustainable solutions to feeling and looking your best, let's connect. You'll find a link in the show notes, or reach out to me at moyragorski.com. Here's to a better you.
And I think for this community, the highly sensitive community, it's even more important just to be able to, I don't know how many are on antidepressants or going to therapists more and more. And oftentimes I found that at this point, not that many therapists, unless maybe the top tier, understand what that is. So you'll go in and they'll try to traumatize you by making you go back to your past, which is re-traumatizing, instead of understanding that they're different and working with them in a different way. They don't know. And so it could be dangerous. Or, this one girl was a daughter of a Chamber of Commerce marketing person in New Jersey. And I wanted to work with her, at least talk to her, just have conversations. And in the end, she said, look, I'm mentally ill. And and she did absolutely, and she was gorgeous, young, just graduated from college, and defined herself as mentally ill and couldn't hear me. She had been so brainwashed to think she was mentally ill. So hopefully at some point in the future, maybe by now, she's opening up to the fact that no, this is where the way her brain is. And parents oftentimes have a lot of problems, it seems, with highly sensitive children. I just shut off, so they didn't have any problem with me. That was it. I wasn't going to fight for it. But a lot of times, the parents will say to me, "Oh, I'm pulling my hair. I don't know what to do," because they're so different. And expressive and all of that. And maybe in a conservative home, again, it's just such a contrast to that, or very mental.
Mm-hmm.
So, so, the educational piece, the awareness that you might be this kind of a person, the celebration that we're 30% of the population, which is pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sorry for those people in countries where women are even more suppressed, and they're like that because it might not be so easy to then blossom. But we are lucky in this country. We have the freedom to be able to, little by little, become more like who we are. So we really need to we need to educate ourselves,
right,
and read these kind of books. And there are other, therapists online that are working with people like this as well. So mine is more educational and teaching them communication. So once they, are starting to come out to communicate with people. How do you do that? Because I love communication. I have a background in broadcasting. I was a trainer that went out and did presentation skills and so forth. And amazing. I'm supposed to be an introvert, but I love teaching so much that I could do that. And to be able to, just learn how, without offending anyone or, them pushing back, what brilliance, what strategy can you form to explain to your mom or your dad or your sister that you're different. So communication, teaching them how to communicate to people in a sensitive way, paying attention to where these people are at in their style so that they hear you and not just bombarding them or coming out and saying it because they won't hear you.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really important. That's a very big part of my work, is helping them communicate to the world, who they really are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can, see how that would be so important, because again, I think when we're triggered, or if we're feeling, again, sensitive or less than, and someone says something, we can tend to, lash out in anger and frustration and things like that. But having the words to say and the ways to communicate with others is really key in that.
And having a person to practice it with, let's say before the big Christmas holiday, you're going home to the family, that traumatic time for a lot of people, practicing, about different people and how to communicate to them, or how to not say anything at times. They might even say to you, and someone did this to me a few months ago, you're too sensitive. I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't heard that in years. But learning and being prepared instead of being scared, or, oh my gosh, my sister's going to start with me and she's going to try to get me into the fight we've been in, and learning how to diffuse that by learning and practicing it before you go, which is so empowering to have those tools.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And so your ideal client, or those that you talked about trying to work with companies and things like that, corporations, to do training there with their people. But, is that where you really are drawn to, or what type of person do you really love to work the most with?
Corporations are fine. It's kind of an ongoing thing. I'm kind of split that way. It's not so easy to get in there with that. So that's fine. Again, this is new stuff, but they know that there's certain people that are different in their organizations that maybe are not fulfilling their potential. But I love to work with people that that are on that cusp of I'm not happy, something's wrong, and they could be very successful. Again, the accountant, very successful. I love that moment in time when they go, this isn't good enough. What's going on? And maybe they've read about highly sensitive people or taken a test somewhere. Those are the people that I love, because then I can, if they're really open to change, then I can really help them move through that. And that has a lot to do with just talking and listening to what they believe about themselves and turning that around and giving them other options of thought about how they can think about who they are. Well, I'm like this. Did you hear what you just said to yourself? Is that really true? Whatever. And then moving on with the communication and all of that. And what is it you truly want in your heart? Have you ever looked at that? Let's open that up and whatever. It can be very creative. I could use the tools that I have, or I could come up with something in a session that's perfect for them. I'm right there with them. And because I am so intuitive and tuned into them, I can know where to go with it. So it's people that are ready, because trying to fight with people that aren't, I've done.
Yeah. Right. It's not getting any place working with those that aren't.
No, it never does for any of us. Right. So we need people that are poised to change, that have the courage to try to change, that would feel safe with me to let me explore with them. And yeah, pretty much, I'm not a therapist. I'm a mentor and a teacher and a trainer. And that's where I come from, and an educator, because that's after learning what I've learned for myself. And every day I'm growing. There is no stopping growing. There is no, you're come to me and you will have the answer to life. No, this is a step on your journey, and you can always come back. But, it's an opening to a new life, the life that you really should be leading.
Yeah. And, as we wrap this up today, what, besides, again, having that connection with you or going to your website to do that quick assessment, what would it be a couple of things that you would, I always like to talk to people about, like, what are the things that you could put in your tool belt every day to help you show up to be the best person, or to help you overcome, or things like that? What would you say are a couple of things? I mean, we've talked about many things today, but a couple of key things for people to do or keep in mind, if they feel like this is who they are.
I think for anyone, and it came through when I was teaching the presentation skills, the most important thing is to pause, and to pay attention to your feelings and ask yourself what's going on. And do I want to do this? Try to start learning to check in with themselves. It's all about pausing, just taking a moment, taking a breath, and then really what's going on here, instead of just reacting, taking that time to respond.
Yeah.
To me, that's the biggest thing of all.
Yeah, I did went through our course, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and that was just a big part of what they talked about, is that noticing piece. I think that's what you're saying. When you pause, you give yourself a chance to notice what's going on around. And then when we noticed, and we know then how to make a choice.
We have choice, but especially for people that maybe think a little bit from listening to this, or if they go to my website or these books, maybe I am highly sensitive. Maybe when they go, I got to get out of this room. I wish I had taken my car instead of, that might be because I'm highly sensitive, really trying to even slow down in that. Or, she's right. I don't like boring, surface conversations, and it's hard to be with extroverts. It's too much. Paying attention to how you're reacting. Just like I discovered that I like to go early to work because I don't like the chaos. I want to ground first. And it hit me this morning, how many years, that is one of the reasons my body knew to take care of me by going early, so I wouldn't have the chaos of everybody coming into the office. So paying attention, taking those moments to breathe, and then celebrating who you are, if that's the way you are, that you are sensitive. It's if you can take care of yourself and you position yourself, we make great leaders. We're very empathic. We care about people. So it's important to get into occupations where we can give, as long as we have clear boundaries, because we have to give our love. It's just kind of what it is. And if we don't, it backs up on us and it become very neurotic if they don't.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where can they find you, Diana? You talked about your website. Is it Diana? Just tell people where they can find you with your website. And
yeah, it's called True Heart Training, which is very interesting because that came to me years ago and it's been evolving. But it's true, www.true, TRUE and HEART, and just one T and then raining. So there's just one T in the middle because you won't find it with two T's, truehearttraining.com. And that's my website. And you can leave a message for me there. You can contact me. I do sessions, free sessions or, complimentary sessions for 30 minutes. We can talk through it. And we'll go from there. That's a good place to find me.
Yeah, good.
Because it will be forwarded too. Yeah. I'm just I don't know how many people we're starting to learn that we are like this, but I don't think there are enough resources yet. That's why I started my support group. And I'm at Oregon, but it's really that it's every 2 weeks. And we have a group that comes every week for a year, just because they feel a sisterhood, they feel safe. They can say what they've gone through. And so trying to find people like that or friends that can surround you that are like that is really a key thing as you're growing into yourself.
That's great. Yeah, really great. Thanks for sharing all this, Diana. It was really insightful. It's always insightful to chat with you. And I know my audience really love this too. You'll find all the links in the show notes too, so that you can click through. And again, I do
love that.
Again, I just do recommend that people, if they're just wondering, what's different about me, or am I different, or just they're curious, having that curiosity, check out Diana's website, check out some of these books and just tune into it. Because again, this awareness that we have about ourselves and taking that time to pause can really help us live into the person that we are really meant to be.
Well, it affects your physical health. It affects your mental health. And it's like, oh, I'm okay. Oh, my goodness, how much fun. What can I do now to be me that gives me joy?
Right.
Which is your subject. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Instead of shutting ourselves off because
we're not like that. Yes, we have to be like other people. Yes.
Right, exactly. And I don't, again, as people that know me, I just do not like to be down. If you tell me that I have to do it this way, like all of the time, I'm like, how about this way? How about I tweak it just a little bit to make it mine? And that's the way I am. And there's nothing wrong with that, but
it's wonderful because you're creative and you're opening the world up to new possibilities. That's your job.
Yeah. Thanks, Diana, for being here. I appreciate that. And thank you, listeners. As always, continue to share these podcasts with others so that we can just spread this information so that we can really live out our best lives and filled with joy. Take care. Hey there. Ready to live a more joyful life? Considering connecting with someone who can help you? If so, I'd like to be that person. I offer a free consultation where we determine where the chaos is in your life and how you can learn to bring more joy each and every day. Visit my website, moyragorski.com, or simply email me, moyra@moyragorski.com, with more joy in the subject line. I look forward to connecting, and I'm here to say there will always be some chaos, which requires a little juggling, but you can find joy and live your life intentionally filled with that joy. Let me help you on your journey to joy. And that's joy, the journey of you.